What's the worst thing someone tried to correct you about something you're specialized at? My wife has a friend who studied zoology who once told me that cows can't run or jump. I grew up with them. I, more than once, had to run after or away from them after they had jumped a fence. Cows are fucking fast when they want to be. Our neighbors had a cow who learned how to kneel down and crawl across cattle guards. She roamed the area for years, couldn't be contained. I work in lightning protection here in the States. I do the estimating and the designs for the largest company in the Southeast. Have 4 going on 7 years. Certified through our industry certification company. The amount of engineers and architects that love to argue with me about the code is astounding. I live that code. Being I estimate and design systems, my main job is to know that code. The worst was the Army Corps of Engineers. We had a project that their designer designed that was in the bid package drawings. Pretty standard. Pick out the materials requested and ignore the incorrect design. That is how we bid it, won it, and designed it. This would have provided them with a fully certified system. In our business, a UL master label certification is as close to a requirement for every job as anything can be. 2 weeks after we submit our design, it comes back with a revise/resubmit stamp and a very snarky demand from the Corps that we change our design to the one provided in the bid package. I went back and forth on email and calls with the engineers trying to explain to them that their system would not work, was potentially a dangerous hazard, and ultimately could not be certified or warranted. They came back basically with, "We don't care what you say, we know better, do it." So I did. Designed exactly like they had, and put a disclaimer on the drawing saying there would be issues and we were not responsible. A few months go by, it's installed and ready for certification. They call the inspector out, and he fails it without even getting on the roof. The army is pissed and tried to come back at us. I politely forward the countless email chains to the officer in charge. Now they scramble to get it up to code. As a consequence, it resulted in us issuing a change order to bring it up to code that was around 75% of the original cost of the project. I didn't specialize on it, but when I worked at the deli in my local grocery store, I had a guy come in asking for some sliced ham. I asked him if he wanted black forest ham, honey baked or mesquite ham. He looked at me and said, "It's not mesquite, it's Mystique." I pointed at the sign and label on the actual effing ham that said mesquite ham, but he still corrected me. I gave up and gave him his damn Mystique ham. This was a good 15 years ago, and I'm still mad about it. My hometown is Mesquite. That cracks me up. I'm gonna start calling it Mystique. I'm a professional pastry cook. The GM at my new job tried to reteach me how to crack eggs. There's a right way to crack eggs. Crack them on something flat, rather than on the edge of something. No chance of breaking the yolk prematurely, since you don't have an edge to pop the membrane keeping it whole. That's what I do. And I can do one in each hand. He wants me to crack them against each other. A new house gets built next door to mine, and shortly after the owners move in, they knock on my door to complain that my house is built too high. I explain that my house is built on flat ground and their builder has built their house lower and undercut my fence. The guy proceeds to give long-winded spiel about how earthworks are done and my house is too high and I have to fix it. I then explain that I do earthworks for a living, have done the earthworks for 300 plus houses in my suburb alone, and around 1200 in the local area. I name his builder, site supervisor, engineer, the exact floor levels in the street, and the law that says that he has to pay to fix my fence. He still hasn't paid, and legal procedures are beginning soon. Edit 1. Earthworks in this case is the removal of topsoil and any mud/clay/organic matter from beneath where the house is going to go and replacing it with clean compacted sand, trimmed dead flat to within 10 millimeters. Edit 2. Because his block was lowered and leveled to suit his engineer, he is responsible for retaining the land around him, which is now higher than his. Edit 3. I was prepared to let it slide because his place being lower now helps my drainage in heavy rain. But when he wanted me to pay for his retaining wall responsibility and would not pay for his half of the fence, I decided that I had enough bluster and bullshit. Time to pay up. I got shut down by this actually. I was arguing with my cousin while we were in an old hydraulic elevator. I said the hydraulic elevators are slow. crap and had far more failures than cable elevators. The guy standing across from us laughs, shakes his head, and says he's an elevator repairman, and that's not true at all. Shamed. My friend and I went to Dapper Day at Disney last weekend, where people dress up in vintage wear. One of Disney's photographers asked my friend if she was Disney bounding, interpreting a Disney character, and she replied that she was simply a generic dress circa 1955. The photographer began telling us how she was really much more late 1940s, and that we may have researched it, but he lived through it, and next time we should look at a picture. We are both professional theatrical costumers whose strengths lie in historical costuming, and her dress was taken directly from a 1955 catalogue. Further, based on his approximate age, and being generous that he may have aged well, this man was definitely not older than 5 in 1955. I'm a Harley mechanic, and I swear most Harley riders have to pretend they know everything about their bike. I don't even argue with them anymore. I just tell them what's up, and if they want to debate about it, I say okay and walk away. Lol. I know a guy who built his Harley entirely or almost entirely from spare parts. His party trick is to ask other enthusiasts what year model it is. The correct answer is all of them. You wouldn't believe the number of times people tried to tell me that people only become diabetic if they eat too much sugar, and insist they are right. I'm a type 1 diabetic, diagnosed at 14 months. Was I drinking soda from my bottles and using ring pops as pacifiers then? I hear so much stupid, unsolicited stuff from people about my T1D. One time a guy told me that if I eat an alkaline diet, my body would become alkaline and kill the diabetes virus inside my body. I then told him that that's not possible, since type 1 diabetes isn't caused by a pathogen, but is an autoimmune disease, and that it's also pretty impossible to make your body more alkaline, because your body has pH buffers, and that if it does become more alkaline, it's a medical emergency. Then he just started spouting stuff he heard on TV without listening to anything I said. Edit. To clear up some confusion, when I say that T1D isn't caused by a pathogen, I mean that a virus or bacteria is not directly responsible for causing the disease, like say how the flu virus is directly responsible for the flu. I know there's a lot of research on some viruses that can trigger an autoimmune response in your body that then causes T1D. Oh boy, where do I begin? I'm a professional music producer. I've been for years. My productions get great reviews from people and are often singled out by music magazines and other industry professionals. People who know what they're doing are nothing but nice and supportive. But I get shit from salty bedroom guitarists all the effing time. Seems like every time I produce a young band, there's this one guy there who thinks he knows it all because he watched a YouTube video. The bass knob on the amp should be set at 10 because 5 years ago I heard that Tremonti sets his bass knob at 10. There should be no effects or editing on the vocals because Black Sabbath in the 70s didn't have vocal effects. Double tracking guitars? What the F? Nirvana had one guitar player and they were the biggest band on the planet. We are recording only one take. I'm not really specialized, but a redditor tried correcting me about the geography of my country, Norway, claiming that it was very much flat like all the other Nordic countries, and he refused to believe me when I told him that it's the opposite and it's filled with mountains. I have worked in a tire garage for nearly 10 years and am female. I can't even count how many times people try to tell me how to do my job. No, you can't cross-rotate my tires. You will break a belt. The tires will explode. Sir, we haven't sold bias-ply tires in over 10 years. We only sell radial tires and the way I'm rotating them is specific to the drive axle of your vehicle, or my personal favorite. Sitting there as a customer lays into me for 30 minutes about how we sold them magnetic tires. I never had an L in my tires. Until I bought your tires I've had 3 repairs since I bought tires from you guys. This is a stunt to make money off of me. If only I knew how to make rubber magnetic, I'd be so rich doing all my free repairs. For a short time I was teaching in a school, and at the end of the year an inspector visited to go over the way I had corrected the final exams. He insisted that the answer to a particular question was not the one I said was correct. He was the one who had written the question. I argued with him that I was very sure that I knew what I was saying. I had written a thesis about this particular topic. It took a lot of effort not to punch him in the face. Well, you might have known the right answer, but he knew the answer that was supposed to be given, lol. I'm a climber. People tell me to wear gloves all of the time. There is a form of climbing where gloves would be somewhat acceptable, although even then a bit questionable, but in free climbing / bouldering you cannot wear gloves, because your fingers actually allow you to grip onto smaller pieces of rock. I totally get you. Got asked that question to a few times, and then offered the people to join me and wear gloves. One person joined me once, and tried it seriously with those thin woolen gloves, and she realized she had been wrong. She is now my reference person if someone asks the question again. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, I just recently made another video about NDA revealed, and you need to watch that now because it's shocking. You can do that by clicking on this card right here.